I'm usually yelling at the girls for that. Turn the fucking light on. It's like they leave a snail mark throughout the house or where the fuck rooms they went in. And fucking lights are on. Dum, 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 dum.
You can track them.
Oh yeah.
What are we? Episode 24? Is this 20? Oh, 25? Yeah. I was just asking. I was just trying to make sure I'm getting this thing right.
I don't even remember half the shit I say. It just comes out.
Yeah, me neither. Yeah, cigs. You got everything you need there.
Yeah.
Drinks.
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
Water.
Oh, dude, Rob would love your notes. His are just all fucked up. Crayon and shit. Like fucking doodling half of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was funny when we had our Blake Menson on here. And Rob was taking notes and Ricky made a joke about it. He was like, yeah, in crayon. Rob's notes are just in crayon. Happy hour is back.
Yeah.
Like that's all he's got on his notes over there.
Fucking funny. 4th grade doodling over there.
But he really is good though. He's usually he'd ask you a bunch of questions for the show.
He's actually really good.
Yeah. And it's like, but you wouldn't think like this would come out of this dude. When we did the first show, we asked him on like a fucking crazy like question about bringing the pre-rolls in the market and then like closed it all together. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, like that was like a 3-part question. Like,
right.
Like, bam, 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 like perfect. I'm like, what was like
he
Tom
copied
Brokaw
he copied somebody's homework.
Yeah. I think he watched 60 Minutes the night before. You know,
Oh my God.
Got some fucking questions.
Yeah. But neon out the mud. Before I get it out the mud, I stay on top of my fitness and hit the shower, clean it up, and then get back to the business. I don't care about who did it, I ain't worried who didn't. I head directly to the back, so I'll be there in a minute. I got expensive taste, the rollie got a different face. For surely I be in them places, they won't let you pass the gate. Post it up, sipping $1,000 scotches with the rock in it.
Yeah, episode 25, the How You Doing show. Activist Danny Carson, Ricky.
How you doing?
How you doing?
How you doing?
He doesn't even know what to say.
I know. I'm good. Yeah.
How was the trip?
Good.
Long ride.
Yeah, it was like a 2-hour drive for me to get here. But it's all good. Like I like driving through Massachusetts. Growing up here, I feel like I like exploring these kind of like towns and things.
You ever get out this way much or?
No, I haven't. This is all new for me.
So, Danny, where does the story start? Where did the activism start? How did you get into the weed industry?
Yeah, so
if you can go from there.
So I got into the industry when I started working for True Leave, and I worked there for about 3 or 4 months as a supply chain manager.
Okay.
So I was over their inventory and things like that, and at the time, they were just getting to their first harvest. So they hadn't even really harvested. Like when I got there, they just got their license, and we were hiring people on, and I hired Lorna McMurray onto my team as a cycle counter. And that task was supposed to be her working in an inventory function, labeling and assisting with things like that.
Oh, just labeling,
right?
No handling of the product.
Yeah, it
really.
was supposed to be like counting the product. Cycle counting is like a term that you use in inventory control, and it's like basically an attempt to make sure that your inventory is compliant with the strict regulations that the CCC has. So it is a function that is pretty, monotonous to do. But her task was, when I hired her, to make sure our inventory was accurate and do the random counts of certain product and things like that.
Okay.
And then when she wasn't doing that, she was working in labeling. And that's what the time when I left. And I found out a couple of months later that she passed away working in their production department.
So she got moved over to production after you had left?
Right. She had, they had never changed her job title, but told her that she works in production now. And so she was reporting to work for months in production.
So True Leave, they just had gotten their license. How long before you started working there?
Yeah. They had just gotten their license when I started working there.
So they came online, and you were one of the
Yeah.
first people to get hired.
Yeah.
4 months you stayed there,
Right.
left.
Yeah.
So like this all happens within a year, and then
Yeah.
the incident with
Right.
her at the facility.
Right. Within a year. I also want to note, like, when I worked with her, like, this is a giant mill building in Holyoke, Mass. So there were 4 floors, and we all had to use the stairs in order to get to these different grow rooms. And so me and Lorna walked up and down those stairs 4 flights every morning and every afternoon for lunch and back up again multiple times. And never once did I hear her wheezing or coughing or struggling to breathe. So it's not like she had asthma,
Okay.
but she worked in production there. And I think because of their moldy product combined with the fact that they had no ventilation in a small room, making these people process different batches, that they were essentially told, that it's like safe, but in reality it wasn't safe at all, and they're grinding it with no filter on or no ventilation and things like that.
So it was a cultivation and manufacturing facility at the place you worked at?
Yeah.
Okay. See, I didn't realize the timeline was that short. So
Yeah.
What did she pass away from?
So she passed away because she had an asthma attack at the grow
And she
facility.
never got diagnosed with asthma or anything like that?
Right. So right now her family has filed a wrongful death lawsuit against True Leave. And that's brought up countersuits with the manufacturing company of the rocket box they used for the pre-rolls, and the grinder manufacturing company is also getting sued. So there's going to be a lot, like in May, coming out about exactly what happened, specifically with her medical records too, to be able to show that she didn't have asthma, and to say, even if she did, even if there is a worker out there today that has asthma and working in one of these places, should they not be allowed to have a job where they're protected,
Right.
or given, ventilation in the facility, knowledge that they're processing something that's moldy up front so they can, mask up or use a respirator or something like that. But we're not seeing that.
and this is the incident or the scenario that played out that actually really started your initiative on being an advocate for workplace safety and protecting the workers. And
Yeah, absolutely.
now you're buying product, protecting the consumer, trying to show some light on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really didn't realize that I didn't realize that this was short-lived at True Leave. They opened their license and had a death at did she pass away at the facility, or did she leave?
So
That was the last time she was.
Yeah.
She had an incident. The ambulance took her from the facility, correct?
Right. Yeah.
That's crazy.
And then she
Within
was,
a year from opening.
Yep.
So this place was. It's not like this was like a place that was open for a while and was running for 5 years
Right,
or
it
4
was
years,
not,
3
right.
years, and then maybe could have had a problem. Like, this is like pretty quick. So did they ever have clean weed at this facility? Like,
I think from the first harvest that they were having problems, as that's what I'm told by former workers that worked in their cultivation.
Was it a new building or was it a renovated building?
It was an old mill building that was renovated to essentially make a building inside of that mill building. But the fact is their HVAC system didn't hold up, and it was uninsulated. So it would drip from condensation onto the plants, and
the ductwork?
yeah.
And they knew this?
Yeah.
So they already knew it. So what were the plans with that first harvest? They were just gonna
Extract
remediate
it or use it for pre-rolls. I mean, they had connections with a major testing lab at the time, one of the only ones that was open in the state, because now we have 14, but back then we only had like 5. And one of these had, the owner of it was married to the head grower of True Leaf. So, of course, that's a conflict of interest when you're going to test your product and make sure that it's clean. So, even if they had moldy weed, I think they were still bringing it to market.
So did that testing facility fail it, or they passed it? Or did she pass away before they even knew?
She passed away before there was a lot of eyes on the lab testing fraud that's happening. Based on talking to a couple like medical genomics, they have a huge database to be able to prove even back then that there was THC inflation happening and PCR specifically type testing being done for weed, which led to moldy cannabis in the market for True Leaf. So
what did they do with that? So did they eliminate that harvest altogether when she passed away?
yeah,
Well, since
That's
the
why I was
first
confused.
harvest, they had problems,
Right.
but she was already there 9 months, so they're probably
Okay.
into second or third harvest by
Right.
then, maybe.
Yeah.
You know, depending on if they already.
So
had
you're
clones.
talking about the previous harvest most likely had mold and it passed.
I think all of True Leaf's cannabis that they sold in Massachusetts had the potential to have mold in it because they used a lab that is known to be fraudulent and have specifically the owner of the lab being married to the head grower of the facility. There's a clear conflict of interest in reporting, moldy weed for that.
Right, that's what we talk about all the time. But I have one more question. Stuff stays on the shelves for about a year. Can't you go back and grab some of that stuff and test it?
Yeah, this happened in Ricky. This happened in 2020?
2022, in
2022?
January of
I
2022.
thought this was more
No,
recent.
no.
Yeah,
no.
so-
We're starting how he got into the activism, Ricky.
There's no timelines on there. All right?
No, but okay. So if you're like a regular company, you got your own company, you can do business with whoever you want to do it with, right? But if you're a lab licensed through the state, working for a state program, isn't there types of conflict of interest clauses or disclosure agreements that you have to disclose, like, hey, I'm married to this person, and I do business? Like, there's nothing in the CCC bylaws or anything like that?
So if you go to look up the license for Steep Hill online, so I do a lot of like searches on there constantly trying to find different documentation like that. And you can't find Steep Hill's application anywhere in the public documents from the CCC. So I don't know what they disclosed or didn't disclose personally to them, but there is a portion on the application that says you have any other stake in any other entity or a conflict of interest, and there's an opportunity for you to put out there.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Is if I'm getting the lab, like as me getting this license through the lab, there's got to be some type of CCC stipulations in there that's saying deferring you from conflicts of interest on there, or you'd have to disclose them. Like, I even do dumpsters for some publicly traded company that has like the fiber optic upgrades, and they've got like every year they send me a list of all their companies, and they have like this little fill out form, like, do you know anybody at any one of these companies? And it's like a list of like, because they must open up a different entity in each state for like the contract to do and I got a list on there if I know anybody, if I'm related to anybody, blah, blah, blah. And that's on the private sector because it's publicly traded. There's oversight from the government, I guess, you know? So that's what them forms are for. So I would imagine there's something like that if you're running a lab to protect consumers from contaminants, pesticides, like, you'd have to disclose that. And then it's kind of funny that that's not public record in the town. They must have a host community agreement, the lab, right, with the town, and it doesn't show the lists of whose ownership on there.
Right,
Somebody's got a sign from the company,
some kind of representative,
and it's usually the owner.
Like the FOIAs that you're able to file and like find this information out. It's just like you have to be able to ask the question because clearly these regulators have chosen to overlook a lot of things. So like until you bring it up and make it public.
When did True Leaf pull out of when did they shut down all operations in Massachusetts?
Almost a year ago, I would say.
So they were only in business for what, 2.5 years in Massachusetts,
Yeah,
something like that?
yeah, and it was very abrupt when they left also. So they were eventually investigated by the CCC about Lorna's death specifically. They were also told that NIOSH, the National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health, was to come in and do a health hazard evaluation inside the facility. And that would have done air quality testing. It would have been able to clearly outline what needed to change for the workplace to improve in safety. It was free to the company, this consultation, and TrueLeave closed their doors 2 weeks prior to it taking place and laid off all their employees.
I didn't know that. So they had, so the CCC was acting. They were going to do something.
Yes, it was just very late.
Just very late.
Yeah, they didn't find out really about Lorna's death until like 9 months or a year after she passed away. So this is all like recently becoming investigated. Like,
wait, what do you mean they didn't know?
Like,
this is
They probably
the
didn't report
industry.
it.
Yeah, but this is the industry you're overseeing. Like, wasn't that stuff in the news? Like,
no, nobody. I reached out to multiple news channels about Lorna's death, and nobody took the story.
nothing.
And until Mike Crawford broke it, nobody had to take it for a year.
So there was no news article like, "Hey, woman leaves
Nope.
cannabis facility in ambulance."
None.
And then Mike, what's that? The two jerks or young jerks?
The Young Jerks.
Young
yeah.
Jerks podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing it
Yeah.
on there.
Yeah.
And then he broke the story, and then the CCC.
Yeah. They inevitably started investigating them. They did go to the facility, but I guess they said that there was certain parts of this facility that were too dangerous for them to go into, so they did a video inspection of their inventory.
Who said it was too dangerous? The workers?
CCC.
Oh, the CCC
So
themselves?
they didn't actually go physically to the facility in their investigations. Isn't that bizarre?
Wait, I don't understand. So
They were acknowledging the fact that there is moldy product, that it was contaminated,
and they didn't want to
and
get
they
sick.
didn't want to get sick. So they didn't go. They did a video inspection. And so in their investigation report, you can see there was never any air quality testing done. There was never any Board of Health called in or Department of Public Health called in, as they're supposed to consult with them per their own regulations on things like this. That all didn't happen. And so the time lapse for it to make change because they just never reported it to the CCC that they just had an employee die.
Now, did they have, when you were in there, did you relieve the workers to have PPE or?
What they had was a COVID mask.
Oh, N91 or whatever?
Not even. Just a little paper medical mask that you'd wear during COVID times or
With
whatever.
all the gaps?
Yeah. Yeah. The ineffective, if dust gets in, that's just going to sit in there, probably make it worse because it's not fitted.
Yeah, for spores and stuff, you need like an actual apparatus
with some
filter
filters,
with changeable
like an
cartridges.
N95 mask or better,
I
a
think
respirator,
better, right?
Right? If you're knowingly have contaminated product, probably a respirator. Machine guarding, basic machine guarding on these grinding machines that you're just dumping pounds of weed into for 8 hours straight, all day, all week. That's your only job.
You're in a room.
Right. You're just in a small little closet just dumping in the stuff, and there's no screen over it. There's no glass to close up and put it in and then take it out when it's done grinding. There's no vacuum attached to it to suck the particles out of the air. There's nothing.
So why did OSHA just give them a slap on the wrist? Is it because it's not like really their jurisdiction because it's not federally legal yet? So they really...
Right. Exactly.
Did they not send much manpower or they don't know how to dress it because they got no bylaws for it?
I think that's the case, but I don't know. OSHA hasn't returned my calls, but...
Oh, you've tried to contact them too?
I have, yeah.
Well, you'd think they would because they're public, service.
Push one of your boys off a ladder and then call them. Then you show up. Hey, why are you here?
Yeah. Yeah, the old switcheroo.
Yeah, look. Hey, why are you here?
Good question, yeah. No, I think that is connected. Like the whole testing is connected to workers directly for me, because what you have with workers is just like, this thing is like a sponge, you know, it's taking and absorbing its environment, and then you're putting it out to consumers. And if you have issues within your building and in your environment there, it's going to come through. Like, all of these workers are constantly processing these dirty pre-rolls and grinding up this material for extraction, super fine. And it's just dust in the air with all this endotoxin or whatever it's on it.
The endotoxins, the mycotoxins. I learned
Right.
a little bit about that too.
Right. And it's like, you know, all these things that the workers have been talking about for years, literally since NETA back in 2020, when they had issues there with people getting respiratory issues and fungal infections because of their mold issues. Since then, nothing has been done for the worker.
Do some of these workers actually have like medical records? Because now workers have been coming to you, right? Like,
Yeah.
And more steadily now that you've been more outspoken about this.
Yeah. There's somebody that, and I can say this, I won't say her name, but she's a worker for the Heirloom Collective.
Okay.
She quit her job there because she had a medical issue while she was working there. So,
And the doctor actually was able to
yeah,
say that it was from this
good. Yeah,
caused at the facility.
yes. The doctor like documented this in her medical file, and now she has the potential, if she chooses to, you know, to bring that up legally and to get compensation for the fact that she literally suffered medical issues because of the mold and contaminated product that she was constantly working around. And it's not the only worker in the state that I've talked to that has this kind of medical documentation of it being that effective to their health in some way or another.
So 2022, you get into the industry, right? Cannabis industry, 2022?
Yeah, around then.
And you leave True Leave. When does the activism really start kicking in? Like, what did you do proactively to start getting out there? Just start posting? Like,
I started trying to let people know, like educate people on unionization is number one. And so I would go to like these events like Extravaganza and NECAN and try to be like, hey, are you a worker? Are you a worker? If you are, here's their, you know, the UFCW card or, you know, whatever union. And just like getting the word out there that there is some kind of representation for them, because a lot of these people are younger and probably don't have experience working for a union or with a union at all, and so it's like really important to get like the word out about that. So I've been trying to do that, and that kind of led me to workers and talking to them, and then realizing all of these issues that they're bringing up to me is also like they're coming to the market, to the consumer. And now I'm finding more consumers that have specific complaints, like the one.
So it started off with the workers.
Right.
Now the consumers are reaching out to you.
Right.
With issues.
Yep.
That's pretty good.
That's been my thing lately, is putting in a FOIA. Like I have a FOIA in right now with the CCC to see who's registered remediation equipment with them.
Okay.
So that I can get a listing of every company that has remediation equipment.
Because that's supposed to be documented from what I heard through people.
So
you know?
I'm thinking that, you know, that's something like with OSHA, like I want to get like the full investigation report to see exactly like
on
what
True
did
Leave?
on True Leave to see exactly what happened. And I'm sure that like her lawyers have that right now and know that and stuff like that. And that's like some examples of what would come out during this like May lawsuit trial kind of thing.
Have you talked to anybody at the CCC? Have you got any relationships in there, or how's that?
Commissioner Roy is specifically in the public health seat at the commission.
Okay.
So she has a specific interest in what I'm doing with testing and what I'm doing with worker safety. She seems very intrigued by it, and that's really helpful. I'm hoping that more action will come, because right now she's working on like the hotline, which is going to be specifically for whistleblowers to contact the CCC and complain about what's happening in their facility with like molds, things like that, safety concerns or what have you, compliance issues, people stealing, things like that.
Have they had a hotline though?
No.
But I thought like a couple months back it was on.
She
Or they just had a
announced
meeting
they were
about it.
trying to.
Who's in charge of that? The CCC, right?
CCC oversights
Okay.
all cannabis.
But they should also be sued as
industry.
well because guess what? They didn't do their job. They allowed this facility to open up and operate without the proper tools, without the proper ventilation, right? Especially in these buildings that are being renovated. We haven't heard one, if anybody has a building that's been renovated the right way. I'm not disrespecting you, but a majority of them have issues. Right?
Yeah. That's why it's all fucked up. They started the CCC out of the Treasury. Right,
with a bunch of people that don't know
out
shit
of the
about
Treasury
anything.
Department?
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, it falls underneath the treasurer of the state.
Okay.
And the fact
Not
is,
the Board
like,
of Health.
No, it used
Like
to be
tobacco
the
or-
Department of Public Health back in the day when it was just medical. However, they changed the CCC when they went recreational, I believe. And now I go to the Board of Health because I've done a FOIA for a local fire departments to see if they've ever gone to a certain facility.
Okay.
And I've gotten back hits 13 times since they've opened. And that's concerning to me as a worker advocate to see that many ambulances in a short period of time go to a facility.
They had a lot of ambulance visits.
Yeah.
This said facility that
Yeah.
you FOIA requested for.
And so after that, I went to the Board of Health. And after that, I went to the building inspector. And they both told me the same thing, that they don't have the authority. Like, the CCC has told them to not get involved. The Board of Health is told by the Department of Public Health to not, you don't have...
jurisdiction.
Right.
Makes no sense.
Right.
It's set up for money, baby. That's all they're worried
No,
about.
that's terrible.
That's all it is. It's all a tax revenue game. That's really all it's said about, because most of the stuff stringent to track, the tracking thing, that's for the money. They want to know exactly how much product they should be getting taxed, and so they're not. And that's why it's through the Treasury Department and not the Board of Health. It's always been about the money.
But it's not new to grow things indoor, right? Maybe there's nothing new with growing plants indoor.
What's
right?
that?
That's not new.
Yeah.
Growing plants
Yes,
indoors
it
is
is.
not new.
Yes,
right?
it is. At commercial scale, yes. Not many people do it. They're usually all greenhouses. Nobody does it really indoors, right?
Yeah.
Some micro grows now, but that's still all usually like
Yeah,
greenhouse.
but with
How many grows
with all,
were in
with all these
Massachusetts 10
talented
years
people,
ago?
right? With all these fucking engineers, with everybody that's supposed to know all this crap, nobody put two and two together. Hey, we're gonna have some water mixed in with some of this atmosphere
Right.
that may create mold,
Well,
right?
this is the problem, is that this market has always been a thing, and growers have always been growing inside since this market was just the black market or the legacy
Yes,
market.
yes.
The fact is, when we went in to regulate this market, we didn't go to those people and ask the questions that they needed to ask because they had no respect for those people.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're facing the consequences of that.
Still stigmatized.
And the people asking
Yeah.
the questions didn't know what to ask.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what he just said, Rick.
Right, they
Thanks.
don't-
Thanks for translating that.
For those that didn't pick it up, clean it up. That's what I'm here to do. Clean shit up for you. I got you, Danny.
Yeah, Rick's got to translate it to his people. But a lot of the grow, it's not big in Massachusetts grow inside because it's not economical. Nobody's going to grow inside before cannabis, fruits, vegetables. That's all outdoors. That's all in greenhouses, flowers. Nobody's really grown in a warehouse. It's never been done, really, on a commercial level in Massachusetts. Even the inspectors probably really don't know what they're looking at, but they know what mold is. They can figure that out.
Nobody when this first rolled out, nobody had the sense to say, hey, with the way we're growing, there's a high risk for mold.
Rick, it was
Right?
all
What are
about
we
the
going to
money.
do with that?
They were more concerned with the tracking system, the taxes, the revenue, because you got to get a SKU. You got to pay for a SKU for everything. It's 39 cents a plant tag.
Right.
40 cents for each fucking you pack of pre-rolls or whatever you label. You got to kick them money. And then when it gets sold, and everything's to make sure they don't miss any product.
Right.
Like everything gets taxed. They just rolled out a thing about penny and stuff out because they were all concerned with selling to your employees like a penny for a pre-roll. So when you go to these events, you can,
Right.
you know, give them out. They seen like a drop. They missed like, I don't know, maybe like 20 grand a month or something, and they had a fucking a brain aneurysm, had to shut it down.
Loophole.
No, you got to
Right.
charge full price, no
Right.
discounts, right? Like,
Yeah.
they'll make an
It's just where
announcement
they
about
put their
that.
priorities at. But they should change that. And that's why I bring up like the bill that I'm working on.
That's the other thing. You
to
got
put
two
in-
bills, right?
Yeah, so right now focusing on one to put a workplace and consumer safety department in place at the CCC. And I think that would lead to them having to prioritize things like this, like putting money into research facilities and things like that.
I don't mean to cut you off.
Yeah.
So the CCC set up to monitor and protect everybody, all parties involved. And they don't have an office
They don't have a health and safety department.
for employees.
Nope.
They don't
Really?
have they don't have an HR.
No, like the Board of Health can't touch it. So you'd think this whole thing's like an internal machine, like they do everything. It does the counting, it protects the people, the employees, the testing. It's all through the CCC.
Dude, this business
they
makes
don't have a
this
department
business
or
makes
anybody
absolutely
that
no
has a
sense.
title.
Nobody.
Makes no sense.
Commissioner Roy is the only one that sits in a public health seat. And that's why I like really hope that she specifically does something about it, because she should. You know, she has the responsibility and authority and is probably the only one in the state that does.
Is she fairly new to the commission, or has
Yeah.
she just started speaking out?
They all are kind of fairly new, I think.
Okay.
And yeah, she did just start speaking out about.
I didn't know if she was
Yes.
one of the ones that's been there from the start,
Yeah.
the foreman.
No, not from the start.
Okay, because they had even the CCC has a bunch of internal shit going on where people were, you know, told not to do jobs and then trying to make other people look bad and stuff. Isn't that like this other suit that's going on with the former chair, right? The chairwoman?
Right. Yeah.
So like maybe people weren't told to do their jobs. Maybe they wanted it to just sit back, just keep the taxes, don't pay much mind. You start uncovering stuff, now you have to start working. Now you're going to start filing paperwork. Now you're going to start coming up with plans and
Right.
you know, committees and get bills and things change. Like people don't want to do that. They're getting paid fucking 6 figures a year to be like.
Do you think it would have been less
Bunch
issues
of
if they would have
pots.
came out and just let weed be sold just like alcohol?
This is just like fairly new, 5 years.
I
So
know,
they're
but
not
they're
going to get
trying
it
to-
right the first time. And they went all about it the wrong. They just were about the money. They didn't really think about the safety, the consumer. Like they had $5,000 in the budget to like buy shelf tests and then retest. How much product can you buy? Like what do you got, a person working a half a day a year on that or something? Like get like 10 samples and okay, send it. There goes $5,000.
Right.
Like
Then you got lunches and everything else built
I
into
hope
that
that,
budget.
yeah, I hope that this bill forces a budget for things like that, you know, inherently, because how do you have a health and safety department that doesn't test product? You know, how do you have a health and safety department that doesn't inspect when you have a call to the hotline they want to put in place,
right.
you know?
Yeah, you got to hire people for that.
And like the other thing is like this hotline that they're putting in place, if a current worker of the facility makes a complaint, let's say that they have mold in the facility and at the same time they're experiencing respiratory issues. They now have asthma, it's documented with a doctor. And they let the CCC know. And they open up an investigation. And then they close it by fining the company. That company can then file a FOIA with the CCC and get the name of that employee that made that origination complaint. And now that employee is absolutely going to be fired from their job, if not retaliated against in some other fashion for opening that kind of investigation.
I thought you couldn't really I thought it was a little bit harder to get whistleblower information than that.
It's not with the CCC. I've asked them directly. The commission has told me the only way that workers are going to be protected is if the Freedom of Information Act law is changed. They won't hold back. that data. It won't be redacted from the investigation report. They have no legal means to do that.
Unless it's the Epstein list, the whole thing blacked out. You got no problem with that.
Right.
But I've been seeing, though, in conjunction with a lot of people's posts on whatever social media networks I'm on, like as of late, like the last couple months, like I've seen the Commissioner Roy actually doing stuff. So I'm like, oh, is stuff starting to free up? Is like the bad regime leaving? Are they actually, or is it a lot from people like yourselves and other journalists covering all this stuff and these influencers covering a lot? Like the Grant Smith Ellis, I've seen him on there.
Yeah.
Chris Ferrone does a lot of coverage on it, talking joints. Yeah. There's like Jeff Ross and Dr. Jeff. He's been, doing a lot of things, testing. But then when these posts, then like shortly after, like the CCC comes out and like within like weeks of certain things, it just seems like the timing's just like,
I think they're finally listening, because I don't think that we've given them an opportunity to sit back anymore, because we're coming at it from all angles. And now it's people that are involved in this that have no other motive than to just do the right thing. It's not about money for myself. It's not about money for Jeff. You know what I mean?
Right.
We're just doing this because it's the right thing to do, because there needs to be more enforcement and everything. And when you have that, the fact that we have contaminated products on the medical market right now that could be causing at least one person that spoke out publicly about it, some kind of pneumonia that led them to be in the hospital for days because they're immunocompromised.
But doesn't this also come back to the testing labs?
Absolutely.
That passed it? Numbers that don't make sense. Usually they don't make sense, right, for a certain reason, right? You bring your stuff to somewhere else, it fails, and then 2 weeks later, the same stuff passes with flying colors.
Right.
Makes no sense.
Yeah, no, it all comes back to the lab.
Do you see a lot of lawsuits in some of these testing labs and them shutting down?
Yeah, I think that it's going to be inevitable, like specifically CACHA labs, and the fact that not only are they being sued for THC inflation, but also I can now prove that they once tested a product using PCR testing methods, which is an unapproved testing method in the state. So they're not following the law there either. And consumers are being misled to think that product is safe. And when in reality, there's already been somebody that's come out immunocompromised, had pneumonia because they smoked a bunch of their moldy product. And it's because of these labs. They're allowed to do this, apparently.
But they also say some of the regulations on testing lab are also weak and,
Weak? That's what I'm trying to ask. So you've got a lab using a system that's not even approved by the state? Yeah. How do they even get open, and how do they even are able to use it?
You would think that the CCC would look at their standard operating procedures that they'd have to have in place before opening to ensure that they're not using PCR testing methods. But I don't think that that's the case. I think that they've been allowed to open and have been knowingly testing using this method for years. And it allows a lot of people to pass their total yeast and mold testing. So it's a financial incentive for them to continue using it until they're fined more than that cost that they're making off of using it.
But it's in the regulations that you can't use PCR, correct?
Right.
I'm hearing this correctly?
Yes.
And then they're allowed to use it. So why wouldn't they be like a cease and desist right away? Like if you go build a house and it's not to code, you can't like move past. Like you don't get
the CCC's not held to that kind of standard. Like they don't hold people accountable. They haven't held any of these labs accountable. It's a problem. There needs to be more. Like Trulieve was eventually fined, but it took them years. And I think it's going to take them years to eventually like catch up and investigate all of this, specifically like CACHA Labs and the Heirloom Collective, and they're passing a product. Like I tested more product from them, and 4 more of the Heirloom Collective products failed testing for total yeast and mold. They were all tested by CACHA originally.
You know what scares me is with all these brands that are failing once they get like and what's that, Chris Hudala?
Mm-hmm.
He's from Pro Verde. He does all the free testing, correct?
Right. Yeah.
He like offers that as a service to anybody. If you got contaminated weed or whatever, you can drop it off and we'll test it.
Yeah.
Which I think is a great thing.
Right.
But what scares me is if there's that much mold going on and that much microbials these people are feeling at such a high rate, what are they using for pesticides? Like to try to control their issue? Like what are they spraying on the product? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's
If you
another
already
big
have
question.
this visible issue so bad, you obviously must have to control it with something. And they only test for 9 pesticides in the state.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why more of this product needs to go to like a standards lab that does have that capability to test. There's a lot that the CCC could do and hasn't done to date, but inevitably they're going to be forced to. I mean, you continually show that medical like patients are getting this moldy contaminated product, continually show through lawsuits that more and more open data is coming out to date. So,
Right.
I mean, it's only going to grow, and the concern is only going to grow, and that means the public pressure is going to grow on them, and they're going to be forced to do something about it. But I think it's going to take a long time.
So if PCR is not the accepted standard, and there's only 14 labs, all they got to do is write 14 letters, like some boilerplate letters, say, hey, it was in the regs. You weren't supposed to be using PCR from the start. You shouldn't have been. So you have to stop now.
Right.
It seems like a simple
Email.
fix to get. yeah. It seems pretty simple to get everybody to, you know what I mean? I mean,
Yeah. I think they're scared of the retaliation lawsuits that might come from that, because I think that
did they change the regs after it was opened, or is this the original regs?
no, nothing's changed. They're not following the law. The CCC is scared to push it because how many of these labs and for how long they've been allowed to do that would acknowledge the fault of the CCC for waiting for so long to cover this issue and change how they're enforcing their own standards on it. I mean, they just haven't been prioritized to do anything about it.
So they sat on their hands so long that now they're in fear of retaliation from actually enforcement.
And you have to also
that's what your understanding is of it, pretty much?
Well, it's inevitable. It's coming, right? I don't know what that...
Yeah, just rip the Band-Aid off.
Right, it's coming, right? We all know now, right? Think about it, right? They didn't put the shit in place correctly right from the beginning, right from the start, right? You put people that didn't know shit about it, right, in charge of the CCC, right? They knew absolutely nothing about it. Fucking put me on there. I didn't know shit about it either. Fuck it. I can take a paycheck. You know what I mean? But if something's going to have common sense, we're going to follow it, right? This isn't something new that just started, right? You had somebody that passed away because of it. Now there's going to be big lawsuits, and we talked about that previously on the show. It's going to take a lot of lawsuits for people to start turning their head. And as soon as people, start losing millions of dollars where they can't operate anymore, people are going to start operating correctly. And start with the labs.
Right.
Start with the labs. There's 14 of them, right? And if 7 of them ain't working correct, and there's only 3, even better. Those 3 labs have been doing it correctly. That
make money.
that are potentially almost going out of business because of the ones that are doing it incorrectly. You know what? Shut the rest of them down until you do it right.
Yeah.
And then funnel it to the 3 that have been doing it right so they can get their profits back.
Yeah, and if you were one of the bad brands using the shady lab, now you got to get to the end of the line of this.
Yeah, right.
Well, you get tested when you get tested.
Yeah,
Maybe you should have been testing with me from the start.
Hey, we're backed
Wait your
up.
fucking turn.
Hey, we're backed up. The testing's now 2 Gs.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, you want to get to the front of the line?
Yeah, you want to get to the front of the line?
Yeah,
It's gonna be a little. We got the Express, but the Express costs a little bit more.
Yeah.
No, but that's what I would do. I'd be
Right,
like, fuck
exactly.
you. You
Exactly.
had me fucking eating grilled cheeses all month because you want to test with this fucking shady lab.
Right.
And now
Right.
that lab's no longer, and now you want to be like rushed to the front? Oh, I would be fucking, people would be waiting. People would be waiting. Shit would be spoiling on the shelf.
Well, it depends on what's on the check.
Yeah.
All right. We'll get you through.
Yeah. Just be patient.
Depends. Yeah. Depends what's on the check.
We're doing our best. So that's why it should have been done through the health department, because they already have the infrastructure through all the towns with all the Board of Health agencies and all the sub towns to actually do a lot of this like grunt work and the inspection work. Obviously, they'd probably have to get stipends probably from the CCC to help. You know what I mean? Maybe put a guy on, because now there's
But it's
10 cannabis
But
places
it's
in this
mind-boggling
town.
how they're not even involved, and it's something that you consume.
Well, they got shut right out.
I know. That's what I'm saying. It's ridiculous that something you consume, the Board of Health is not involved in it, or they can't go in and check.
Right. It is.
Are you asking for the most freshest stuff, or are you grabbing just like any consumer would? Like, hey, if it's there and you're selling me 10-month tested stuff, I'm gonna buy that. Or,
Yeah. I'm buying whatever the bud tender gives me when I say, like, I want, like, the heirloom collective product, or I'll buy specifically. But you don't see that when you're a consumer at first, you know? Like, you have to
Right.
ask to see
Test
what's the
dates.
oldest, things like that. I don't do that. I just buy what's available there. And I happen to buy these 4 pre-rolls from the Heirloom Collective. And when I asked them for the COA, they wouldn't provide it to me in their dispensary.
At the one they own that's underneath
Yeah.
their license.
Right. The Heirloom Collective wouldn't. And that's also a common occurrence. Like the ComCan, who recently made this huge post about how, I think it was on News 10.
Yeah,
Some
I've seen
Boston
that.
news channel picked up
Yeah.
this story on ComCan saying that they were, growing not moldy weed and everything was great because they
Yeah,
had
I've seen that.
airflow.
Was that the one that said they were pulling stuff off the shelves?
Well, there was a video that started with it, but then they went into this ComCan place and they
Cultivation. He must have invited the people, the camera crew down and did like this big, like forward fucking, news story that he grows clean weed pretty much. And he stands behind his product and pretty much saying, yeah, he hears that there's moldy weed out there, but not him pretty much.
right. And
Sums up the news.
Yeah,
And they have moldy weed.
and they have moldy weed. And when I asked them for the certificate of
Allegedly.
analysis, they told me that I couldn't get the certificate of analysis from them. They wouldn't give it to me. And they told me that their company just doesn't do that. And so I guess they just don't do transparency with their consumers, is what they mean by that.
To your point, don't you want that like up on your storefront, right? Wouldn't you want to post that right up? Hey, look at here's our tests.
Yeah, why don't they do that? Why doesn't
Post it up?
Yeah, why doesn't the dispensary
Right,
take their COA, frame it like a movie poster?
Right.
Bam, here's my shit. Here's the CFUs it tested out. Here's the lab, blah, blah, blah.
That's
You would wanna rock
transparency.
that.
Yeah, you would if you were
With
doing
your
the
high
right
THC,
thing.
right?
Right.
As well.
But a lot of these original certificates of analysis that I find have none detected when it comes to CFUs for total yeast and mold.
Not detected.
Not detected whatsoever. But then they pop up with 400,000 CFUs a couple of months later.
But then you see people complaining about the CFUs like it's too stringent and there's, the testing's too hard. You already have a supply and demand issue already out there. And I come from, like, my point of view is it's a free market. Like, business, you should be able to do what you want to do. If you stand out and you know how to make money, you stay in business. Not that, they spent a bunch of money and, they got to, they made a big investment, so, let them get away. No, like, you can't grow good weed. That's your own fault, man. You spent $40 million on the wrong fucking operation.
But not when you're playing. Not when you're putting people's lives at stake.
No, but this is what I'm saying, because this microbial testing goes back to that. Like, all this stuff's contaminated, and people are saying that you should soften up on the testing, because then maybe people, wouldn't be there to cheat. How about just enforce the bullshit? And then
Start with that.
I said 50%. And Yasha was on the show, and he said it was way north of that would not pass. So you think about it. Yeah, obviously, when there's only a few of them, it's going to be around $14. Like, it's going to be the highest if you're, like, the only store in the state. Like, it's only going to come down from there, the more stores that come online. But it should, like, plateau at about, like, $8 a gram. But you can't do that because everything's passing. So I don't feel bad for you. Enforce the laws. Fucking, if you can't grow good weed, you shouldn't have been in weed. You shouldn't have been there. Like, I've invested in the stock market twice in my life, 10 grand each time, and within months it was all gone.
Right.
Sirius XM one time, them cocksuckers, they screwed me. I thought I was gonna hit it big.
Did anybody feel bad? Hey, did anybody feel bad for you?
And then it just was gone within 2 years. It was at like $250, like 9 months later. Like it was
right,
done.
did anybody feel bad for you and say, "Hey, we're gonna give you another 10 grand to reinvest"?
No, because I did something I shouldn't have been into.
Exactly.
I shouldn't have done stocks.
Right.
I know not to do it.
You should have did day trading.
Yeah. Got options, and then it was like gone. That was like a month and a half, and it was just gone. And I was like, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm not doing it again.
I think there's a lot of people in this industry that need to accept that fact for themselves. When they continuously harvest bad product that can't pass total yeast and mold testing, and they have to pay off the lab to inflate their THC, then why are you still pressing yourself to get into this industry or stay in this industry? It's like,
Right.
you have to take the loss. Like,
Hey, but imagine if you, we talked about this as well. Imagine if you're selling fucking food products that you know is gonna fucking hurt somebody, right? You knew that shit had fucking salmonella, whatever the fuck it had in it, and you know what? You fucking still fucking sent it, right?
Yeah, but chicken.
You're
you
going
can
to fucking
smell
jail
that shit,
for it,
probably.
right?
Like, this shit's
And
rotten.
in this industry is doing the same fucking thing, and nobody's doing anything about it.
There was second-rate citizens down here in the cannabis
Oh my
world.
god,
Like
Jesus Christ!
the whole industry. It's not even
It's
really.
fucking terrible.
yeah, places like Boston Bud Factory is literally one of the smallest dispensaries in the state, and they're locally owned. Like the guy that owns it does like bud tender. He's inventory. He's manufacturing. He's also
Do they have their own cultivation?
no, they don't. So they take in third party products
Okay.
to make their own vape carts and things like that.
Okay.
But that means also that they rely on the fact that these labs are telling them the correct things when they purchase third-party product to use for their things. So they're also relying upon that information to know that their workers are not going to be under like extreme respiratory stress because it's contaminated product or anything like that.
Will they not deal with somebody because of because they test with a certain lab?
They are, so far what I can say about them is that I've tested product from them before. Like I was impressed. They were selling impressed pre-rolls in their dispensary.
Yep.
And I came to them and let them know that they actually failed the testing when it was tested with culture-based testing with Pro Verde. And they removed the product from their shelf. They called Impressed. Impressed sent them new product to use. And that's, I think, a great way of doing business. You
Yeah.
accepted that you had a problem. You helped your
No
customer out, and you did the right thing.
No shit. And Impress took the stuff back,
Right.
and then
I think it's a step in the right direction.
Right.
And I wish that more people did things like that. Like, it can be a simple conversation where you're acknowledging that you had a problem and correcting it for your customer. And then your consumer is inevitably, you're being held to a higher standard, and your consumer appreciates that, and they're going to keep coming back to you. And there's got to be the people that are doing it right out there. There's people
Right.
with morals. Like, I still have hope for our citizens that they have
Right.
morals, and like that there's somebody out there doing the right thing, like similar to Boston Bud Factory, that's willing to have the hard conversation and do the right thing.
right. You can actually earn more respect by something happening and going wrong and taking full responsibility and rectifying it. And you'll actually get a customer for life. There's like customers that something like happened to, and I've taken care of it right away. And then they've been getting dumpsters off me for like 15 years. Like, people make mistakes, but you have to own your mistakes.
That's what it is in business.
You know
It's
what I
how
mean?
you handle your mistake in business,
Right.
is what keeps you going.
So little wins like that, with not being able to get a job in the cannabis industry, is like little wins like that. Like, hey, like I'm changing some stuff.
Yeah, it keeps me motivated to keep going and want to do more, because there are this is a widespread issue. I've now tested 84 products and 40 of them have failed. So that's a 47% fail rate in the state. And I think it's so widespread that motivates me to keep wanting to find more and to better explain the issue. Like, what reasoning is behind the fact that these labs are able to just pass this off as safe and things like that.
And that's the big
Now, which
thing,
testing
because
facility do you use?
Pro
Who you
Verde.
trust?
Pro Verde Labs, they use culture-based testing for total yeast and mold there. I don't know I haven't had any original COAs ever come from Pro Verde, meaning like they don't test a lot of flower product because probably it doesn't pass total yeast and mold testing with them. So a lot of places don't use them, but they should. They should absolutely go to Proverity Labs and use them because they're doing the right thing. And for concerned consumers, they have free yeast and mold testing. So that's how I've been able to test all my products, and really respect the owners doing that as like a help to the consumer, because it's a really important issue. There's definitely people out there getting affected by it in some way, shape, or form. And so until people do anything, I think the best thing is to just continue to collect data, which just makes me want to collect more data on what's happening.
You would almost want to post that type of stuff, though, right? Hey, this testing lab fails people, right? Right? And you want to post it, hey, we go to them. And I would post that, right? You post it all up as transparency.
Yeah.
Right? Because now you're like, okay, listen, they're watching out for us. I know whatever I buy here is going to be safe to smoke, especially if I had fucking medical issues.
This is where it goes back to educating the consumer, consumers asking for the COA at the point of purchase, and then doing a little research and finding out what labs that are shady characters. You can look up lawsuits. You can look up,
But
people like Danny doing stuff. He's posting the results from the product and the COAs from the lab where the dirty product was from, right?
Yeah.
That'd be an interesting thing to find out. That's what you got to find out with these tests, the dates. See if it,
correlates. Yeah.
That way the consumers can know. But I've always told the consumers but you don't want anything like 4 or 5 months after the test date. That's garbage. Like you just need to keep on asking for fresh product. And then the longer the older product sits on the shelf, and don't fall for these fucking deals for, these blowout deals where they just give you 12 months product ready to expire. Right. Let them eat that and keep on getting the fresh stuff. And then,
Danny, have you used different labs?
I've only used Proverity because they were the only one in the state.
Don't you want to take what they've tested and then take that product and bring it to different labs to see if they're doing the correct thing?
Yeah, he's getting the original COA when he buys it, so he's already got this lab to compare it to, and he's already getting the results. And this guy, Chris, he's been generous enough to offer free testing, so he must be feeling the squeeze. You know what I mean? He's just trying to probably get to the bottom of the situation, and any data that he can get from people bringing product to him with the original COAs. If you're a consumer, you get a COA and you bring him some product and you're not happy with it, he'll test it for you,
right? And
then he's probably collecting this data. That's what I was going to ask you. Like a lot of these places that you get the COAs from, say like Kaicha Labs or whatever, do they like fail all the time when you buy product from them? Or is it like 80% of the time? Or
so Kaicha Labs specifically is a specific company that I know if I buy product that the original COA says it's from Kaicha Labs, I know that it's going to fail total yeast and mold testing.
Like you already got it, and it's
always failed. I've never had a case where Kaicha tested it first and it passed, and then I tested it again and it also passed. It's always been a fail.
Is there any other labs that are coming up in COAs more frequent for failing with your reports?
Green Analytics and Assured.
Okay.
Are two that repeatedly come up besides Kaicha. But I think that they all have the same thing in common, which is that they were using PCR testing and not culture-based testing. They're also all multi-state operating companies that have huge ties to different industries.
Okay.
So, yeah, they have a lot of incentive in this state with the gray areas of things and allowing, like the CCC allowing them to operate in this fashion.
They were very strict on like tracking the money and the tax and the plants and the product, but like the testing, they just like, seems like they dropped the ball. Like even Ricky, you look like you're about to burn that mic again.
I did. Technical difficulties.
It seems like it's set up to even fail to even get accurate testing, or even to say if it's the lab or if it's the brand or if it's a collusion. Just it's like they left it in the wind. Like it's almost by like design, almost like.
Yeah, it almost is by design, and I think it's interesting that it took until certain people left the commission before people started listening.
Right, that's what I mean. Like, I've actively seen like this Kimberly Roy woman, like, co-signing a lot of posts and like, being proactive on podcasts and just hearing her name a lot. Like Jeff Rawson goes and talks to her, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
so they're actually talking to people now. Like, it was in that much I can't believe the amount of disarray it was in for like 5 years for like people to actually come out.
Right. It's almost as if there was somebody like in the commission that was like willingly holding back the information from the public. Like they knew all the complaints would always get forwarded probably to this person. They knew about all this data, but made the conscious choice to not do anything about it, probably because they had some kind of financial incentive to do so.
So people were making complaints, like other license holders, like
Yeah,
at
I mean, all of the
meetings,
labs that were doing the right thing and just lost all their consumer base because they found out they can go to Kecha and Green Analytics and Assured to go and get their mold testing done and have no repercussions whatsoever and be able to pass their product off as safe. So all of these labs have been talking to the CCC for years about this. Proverity specifically.
Yeah, MCI got shook down after like he was trying to like raise a big issue. They like came up in his offices and wrote him like I think $40,000 fine for his dumpster not being locked or something like that, and tried making him fire 3 people and then fined him because he didn't let the 3 people go because they couldn't get updated cards because there was a problem with the actual ID card, like getting them made. There was like the computers were down because I think the cards get made at the registry. So the people didn't have like active cards. So it wasn't even their fault that they couldn't get the cards. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That must be a feat in itself. I have no idea how this works, but how do you even start to put a bill? Like, how does that work? What's the process?
You find somebody that's willing to listen to the story behind it. And,
A politician?
Yeah. So like a House representative or a senator.
Okay.
Something like that. And you start working on different language that could be helpful for making different regulatory changes. So all of these kind of CCC regulations come from a state legislation. Like there's a lot of gaps in it to leave it up to the CCC's discretion of how they want to manage that function that's put in legislation. So if you put more specificity into legislation, you require regulation changes to come about by the CCC. So that's like, one part of it. That like if these labs wanted to change any of these testing requirements or add water activity or anything like that, there could be a bill that is put into place to make the legislation state that so that the regulations reflect it.
So is this or is it just like an amendment? Hey, this is the amendment to this
Exactly. It's an
existing
amendment.
blah, blah, blah. And then do you have to like break down like how the bill actually works? Like positions that need to actually make this amendment work? Like,
Yeah.
does it
So
have
it'll
like,
like different departments specifically that are going to be, or different department heads where those people should come from, what kind of background they should have and expertise to be able to be effective in like a health and safety department within the CCC. So it can be very specific in those details on the bill.
has there anybody sent any money, partnered up with anybody to like get behind you for any of these bills, or anybody
No.
showing support, or?
Not yet. I think we're still in like real early stages of it. And I think we'll see more as soon as like Lorna's case is being heard in May. And I think after that, it'll be very clear and evident that, workers are at risk still. And her story is one that's similar to a lot of people. And then that will inevitably help back the bill to establish a Department of Health and Safety within the CCC. We're going to learn more about the mold and the effect that mold played on Lorna's case specifically.
So all this case will be public record after the case, right?
Right.
Like all the data, and
all the
you
findings.
just go down to the courthouse and get it, right? It's all
Right.
public record.
So Danny, what are you doing else to like spread this word? You showing up to some of these, just any events and anything like that, just to educate anybody?
Yeah, I am. So I work with a coalition of people. We meet on a monthly basis, and we've set up a training that I hand out to workers at different events. Um, and we're trying to like outreach constantly at like things like NECAN and Extravaganza and anything, any kind of festival that's coming out from the legacy market, even to get in front of workers because like I was trying to organize a worker party this summer to be able to like give trainings out and information to workers there. But even just going to these facilities and trying to hand out information about a worker party was, I mean, it was folded up immediately and put into the trash by their security department.
Stick it on the windshield wiper.
Trust me, I've been at smoking areas on
If
break
they drive a Jeep,
time
put like
and-
it on duck or something
Right.
like that. Duck 'em.
Exactly. Yep. So it's really hard to get information out. So I always go to those kind of festivals and try and find them.
If consumers are working in Mass, how do they get a hold of you to help you out? How do they report their issues? You got Instagram, LinkedIn?
Yeah. I always give out my Instagram, Danny, Massachusetts. It's easy to remember. They can all reach out to me there. I also have information on there. They can reach out to get any more training, but I have some links on my Instagram to be able to find the training that I was talking about before. It's cannabis specific. So it's talking about locating hazards in the workplace, where those might be, and what to do about it, how to approach a supervisor and things like that when you have issues. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Where do you post a lot of this data that you receive? Is it on the IG too? Or?
Yeah, it's all on Instagram.
Okay.
That's the first place I always put everything. And then also on LinkedIn, Danny Carson on LinkedIn as well.
Did I cut you off before you finished to tell the whole list? Did you have other brands on there that failed too?
Yeah, so Comcan, INSA, The Pass, Number 9 Collection, and the Heirloom Collective all recently failed products. So
And 50% of the product that you bought? Did some of these brands have some stuff that did pass, or?
The Pass had one that passed. INSA, all 3 of theirs failed.
Okay.
The Heirloom Collective, all 4 of theirs failed.
And these are all pre-rolls or flower?
Yeah, these are all pre-rolls.
Pre-rolls.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy? Everybody comes on the show. Usually they don't want to spit names. Danny don't give a fuck, dude. He can't fucking lighten it up, dude. Danny's like fucking da, 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 da. He can't fucking firing, dude.
No,
He dusted up-
he's not worried
Hey,
about it.
He dusted off the AK, dude, and fucking showed it up. Fucking loaded it up and came out firing, dude. Attaboy.
Well, nobody else is saying it because they're all like scared of the retaliation of it. But the fact is, like, I already can't get a job in this industry. Nobody's gonna hire me anyways, so I have nothing to lose, and that's the difference. Is like,
Oh, dude, you're the
Yeah,
worst
I can-
person to fucking go against.
it's just-
We're
Especially
gonna
with no money
we're
ties
gonna
to the
not give you a
industry.
job.
right,
Because that's what I
We're
think.
gonna ruin your career.
right.
Yeah.
You've already done it. It's already been done. you
Yeah,
know?
but
It's
we're
like-
gonna man, we can't fuck with you.
Right. It's like, yeah. I mean, what are
More
they gonna
power
do?
to you, man. That's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Keep it going. Bring in more names. We're gonna have a fucking part 2, dude. You guys better get your shit together. Dude. My boy's coming with a list.
You better clean up your
My
fucking
boy's
act.
coming with a fucking list.
No, this is great. Somebody's got to do it.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think, nothing is going to change. These labs are going to continue to do the bad, things that they've been able to do for the last 5 years plus that they have all been in the state and until the CCC does something. So what's it going to take? I mean, I just personally, I don't want it to be another worker dying. I don't want it to be a consumer dying.
Right.
And so, yeah, I feel a responsibility to speak up, especially knowing all the data and information I know now.
And then I even early on, like when we started this like a year ago, when I was talking to somebody, even like the license holders, some of these people were even scared to come about and talk, or even like these labs were even scared to come out and like put down on paper like there's an issue, or these other brands don't want to come forward about other people cheating or inflation. They're just like, well, everybody's doing it, so I just got to do it. I'm like, well, why don't you say nothing? Well, what the fuck, man? I don't want to be the only one who says something. Like, they have my license. You know, this is my livelihood. I got investors, like my family. I borrow family money. Like, you know what I mean? So, like, even they were scared, but now it seems like more and more labs are coming out. Now with this lawsuit.
It makes it a little easier, right? When you got everything that's all in, right? You got your whole livelihood invested in something, right? How can you put that at risk? What's the backup plan? A lot of people don't have a backup plan.
Motherfuckers lose money every day in this country, Ricky.
We're not talking about you and fucking stocks.
People lose money in this country every day, Ricky.
I know, but you made the point of fucking why people are not fucking coming out more.
Fuck it, shut it down, go do something else. In business,
fucking says the fucking dude.
In business, right? It's quicker to just close the doors and shut it down right away. It's not worth to bleed it out over time. It's not worth it because you're going to lose 5 years, 6 years bleeding out, and the end game's not going to change. It's inevitable. You're going to go out of business. So the quicker you move on from it and get your money in something else, the quicker you'll stop making money.
But there's a difference there. You're talking about the testing facilities, right? You got some people just barely fucking hanging on because they're fucking doing the correct way.
Yeah,
they're not going to come out fucking. They're not going to come out.
You have to. Or else you're going to be a slow death.
They are with their fucking testing fucking results. That's how they're going to do it. But they're not going to fucking spit the names of the people that are failing because they can just show the results. When somebody says, hey, we want to see who fucking failed, there you go. Right? But they're not going to come out and say, hey, that fucking guy failed and he fucking went somewhere else. You're not going to do it.
Why not? You
fucking
lost
suicide. That's fucking why.
You lost their business anyway.
Right? That's what we're talking about.
He already said, fuck it.
What?
He already said, fuck it. Yeah, I ain't making no money, so fuck you. Just like this guy ain't going to make no money off you, so fuck you.
Yeah, but Danny didn't, with all due respect, he didn't own the facility, right? You're talking about somebody had fucking millions of dollars invested, right? And they're fucking barely hanging on, and you're going to do what you can, right?
Well, then you're
trying to do it the correct way. I'm only talking about testing facilities.
Well, you'll attract the people and the brands that want to do it right, and they'll start coming to you to support them.
Right. That's what I'm talking. That's what I'm saying. Right. But you're not going to fucking commit fucking suicide by fucking spitting names out. It's a fine line.
Okay, Ricky. Okay, Ricky. You're one of the most vocal people I know.
I know.
Oh my God. What do you think, Dan? We miss anything?
Not that I have.
You got some more names that you want to spit out that you missed?
No.
We got activism. We got the bills. How can workers get a hold of you?
Yeah.
Talked about some union stuff, some events.
Got everything I was thinking of covering.
Ricky, anything you want to add before you burn another fucking mic?
Are the union guys showing up to these events? They should, right?
They do. Yeah, they do. They're at NECAN. They're at these like different events that are going on in the industry. It's just, you know, it really is up to the workers to like use their voice and be willing to do what's needed to make change, which is speak up about what issues you're facing at work and stuff like that.
Problem is it's timing though, because it's just like, you know, you're gonna lose your job.
Right. Yeah. It takes somebody, I think a lot of former workers that don't work in the industry anymore to come forward.
That's what it is.
So that they can keep their jobs, but that somebody who's worked there before can speak up.
Listen, have them come in the car industry. We fucking hire everybody, dude. You want to work? We're going to fucking hire you. Then you go back to the fucking weed industry when they straighten that shit out.
Right.
How about that? Ricky hires anybody. Look at him.
Not anybody. Anybody that wants to work, we're going to take care of you.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
Yeah, that's a job interview. Ricky just smiling at you.
Yeah.
That's a whole episode in its own.
Well, that's a wrap, Danny. I appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you.
Mass consumers, they must appreciate it too. Yeah. And thanks for coming on and telling us a little bit about what you've been doing.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you for serving, brother.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. That's it. That's a wrap. That's it.
Wake up in the morning, got a bag on my schedule. Niggas talking, bitches talking, they is not on my level. Check the time, wrist, rolling, rose gold on the bezel. Grab my keys and get my cell and hit the door with a shovel. It's time to get it out the mud, 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 out the mud. It's time to get it.